You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, Certified Life Coach Michelle Arnold Burke. In today's episode, I'm discussing spring cleaning your mindset, atomic habits, and the big leap revisited. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. Okay, today I'm doing something a little different. I'm bringing back two previously aired episodes that I think you are going to love listening to again. One is all about Atomic Habits by James Clear, and the other is on The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, two books that I have been talking about recently in the podcast, and they've been coming up in my world a lot lately. So I feel like whenever something continues to show up, it's usually a sign that we want to pay attention to it. Here's what I also know. I just sent out an email to my list about spring cleaning, and it got me thinking about how sometimes that's exactly what we need, like a little nudge, a little reminder, a little reset to start a new habit or maybe to begin a new process. So these episodes might just be that reminder for you. I highly recommend reading both of the books. Actually, I've read them each a couple of times because here's the thing. Every time you pick up a book again or even listen to a podcast episode for a second time, you hear it as the most up-to-date version of you. So even if you listen to these back in the day, you are going to hear them differently today because you are different. And I think that's where the magic is. All right, let's get into it. And reminder, if you want to make sure you're on my email list so you never miss any of the fun, and we have some really fun things coming up in the next couple of months, head over to michelleburkecoaching.com/newsletter. Simple. Just sign up. You'll get all the info, and I'll catch you back here next week. But for now, enjoy the episodes, lead your life with intention because it's your time, and make it a great day. Take care. Hello. How are you guys today? It's finally starting to warm up here in the Northeast. It's so nice. You might actually hear the birds chirping. I have the windows open today. And last night, oh my gosh, we had such a nice dinner with friends. It was so funny because we were catching up, and one of my girlfriends, she was like, Michelle, you know there is still only 24 hours in a day. What else are you doing? We were just cracking up because I was like, well, I'm waiting for more people to sign up for one-on-one coaching at 4 a.m. So far, no takers. Seriously, though, you guys, here's the thing. She is correct. There are 24 hours, but what we do with those 24 hours is so important. You get one precious life, my friends. How do you want to spend each minute? That is the work that we do here. Finding more time for you to be able to do what you want, whatever that is. Maybe relax, or maybe work out, or maybe catch up on sleep, or watch some Netflix. Whatever it is, I want you to start learning how to do it without the stress and guilt of thinking you should be doing something else. That skill is magic. Okay, today is episode 30. Can you even believe it? And you may recall, each 10th episode, I like to share a mentor or a teacher who has influenced my thinking on a particular subject. And today, I want to talk to you about a book I recently read, and I love to give it to my clients. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I was actually recently listening to something with Tony Robbins too, and he was talking about the standards that you set and the rituals that you implement to get to a goal versus just wanting to get to the goal. And it kind of reminded me of this book. And ironically enough, I just had a client send me a message last night that she is at the lightest weight she's been in a decade. And it's because she's been sticking to the new habits that she implemented. I love it. And even for myself, I found the more rituals or habits that I implement, the more peaceful I am. Seriously. At first, I thought it seemed kind of constraining to just commit to doing one thing, for example, over and over. But honestly, I have so much more freedom. You guys, here's why. Once you commit, you know it's done. You just have it set and you don't have to go back and forth with when should you do it or how should you do it or maybe there's a better time. It's so fascinating. Now, the title of the book may give you a hint about the content. Yes, it's about making tiny changes for remarkable results. And there are a number of different easy ways to build good habits and to break ones that are included in the book. So, what I thought I would do today is share some of the insights from the book and use either examples from my clients or myself and how we've implemented them. So, let's dive in. Let's start with how he defines a habit. It's a routine or behavior that is performed regularly and, in many cases, automatically. And let's just back up for one moment. Do you know why habits are so important? Because the quality of our lives depends on the quality of our habits. Think about it. I've worked with people who overdrink, people who overeat, people who work out every day, people who stick to their calendar routinely. It all adds up to the results that you currently have in your life. And here's the thing I think is super important to the book: making small changes. We sometimes think we need to make some big, huge, sweeping change in order to make a difference. Not true. And in fact, sometimes when we think they need to be huge, sweeping changes, our brain freaks out and we don't make any. So let's start small. Even just a 1% change every day will add up to big new results. It's like compound interest on your bank account. But in this case, we're talking about compound interest in your self-improvement, in your mental health, in the life that you want to be living. Now, the title, Atomic Habits, means a regular practice or routine that is not only small and easy to do, but also a source of incredible power, a component of the system of compound growth. So it's not just about making a habit, it's about building a system of habits that will get you the results that you want. One concept I found very helpful was the idea of there being 3 layers of behavior change. Oftentimes, we focus on changing the outcome, like the results. You want to lose weight, for example. This is where most of our goals are set, at the outcome level. Now, the second layer that he discusses is with changing the habit and system. So maybe you have a new routine at the gym. This is a process level change. And then the third and the deepest layer is changing your identity. This is where you change your beliefs, you change your view of the world. Now, one is not necessarily better than the other, but when we focus on the third, we focus on who we want to become, not just what we want to accomplish. And changing who we are gives us lasting change. Okay, so this may sound like a silly example, but it was true for me. For years, I would stop at a local deli almost every morning and get an egg and cheese sandwich with salt and pepper on a toasted, buttered, delicious hard roll. I think I was addicted, and it was for sure a habit. Well, as it started getting closer to bathing suit season last year, I wanted to get that cleaned up. So I would make a try to cut back on having them. Notice, I'm going to try to cut back on having them. And if you've heard me say this once, you've heard it multiple times. Remember, the brain works on a motivational triad. So it wants to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and be as efficient as possible. So, stopping for the egg sandwich was super efficient for me. They actually knew exactly what I would order since I did it every day. And it was quite pleasurable to eat and get my dopamine hit from the extra flour, right? So it was no surprise that some days I was able to avoid it, but some days not so much. And then one day I decided I am a person who does not eat egg sandwiches for breakfast. And from that point, it was no longer a habit. I no longer identify as the same person who feels the need to stop every single day. It was crazy. That decision made all of the difference. I bet you those workers probably miss me, right? So consider a habit you've been trying to change. Do you want to become a person who only drinks on weekends? Or maybe a person who only has dessert on Sundays? Or maybe someone who starts honoring your calendar commitments no matter what. Start identifying as that person. Not just that you want it, but that you are that person. And you have to start trusting yourself to first decide the type of person you want to be, and then start proving it to yourself with small wins. Because here's the thing. When you win the majority of the time, you will begin changing your beliefs about yourself. Now, the next important concept he talks about is the best way to start a new habit. Now, in the book, the author talks about people who make a specific plan for when and where they will perform the new habit and how much more likely they are to follow through. And he also discusses the importance of habit stacking. See, sometimes people think it's lack of motivation that doesn't allow them to achieve the new goal, but really, most often, it's lack of clarity. Think about the last time you were looking to set a new goal. Were you thinking about when would be the right time to start it? Like, maybe next Monday we'll start again. I know, I've had that before too. But the idea of habit stacking is not only that there is a specific time and location, but that it also follows a current habit. So, as an example, when I started meditating, I would say I need to meditate for 2 minutes at the end of my workout, which is always in the morning. And my workout is always after I have my first cup of coffee. All previous habits that I've had implemented, so I just had to stack this one on top of those. And I would stick to it, and then you guys, I would add a little more each time, and now I meditate 15 to 20 minutes every single day. I would never have imagined that when I started. I was seriously the girl that was peeking at the timer to see when the 2 minutes would be up because I couldn't stand just sitting there doing nothing. But what I've learned is the more I add to my meditation time, the more calmness I have to get other things done efficiently. It's amazing. And so now, back to the identity shift. I am just somebody who meditates at least 15 minutes a day. It's just who I am. So, pick a time and location for your new goal and stack it on top of a current habit you already have implemented. And be sure to be clear about it. I didn't just say I would meditate more. I knew exactly what the goal was, when, and where. And then you need to stick to it. Got it? Okay. Another concept in the book is the idea of making habits attractive. Think about it. Our brain loves the pleasure, the dopamine hit. That's why habits of like drugs, over drinking, over sugaring is that even a word? You get the idea. They're all highly dopamine driven habits. So when you can reprogram your brain to enjoy the hard things, yes, enjoy the hard things, you will be more likely to keep taking forward action. So instead of saying, that you have to get up early to get to the gym, try saying you get to get up early to go to the gym. Here's the thing, friends. It may seem like semantics, but the truth is, when you want to get new results, both are actually true. You have to do new things, and you get to. The difference lies in the mindset you want to take when considering the change. Think about it. Which way sounds more attractive? Getting to, for sure, sounds better to me than having to. And here's the other thing. The reason we want new results is because of how we think we will feel. It's why we do or not do everything in life. So it's not as much the habit you want as it is the outcome and how you will feel. The author likens the habit to like an obstacle to getting what you want. So for example, getting to the gym is the habit, but what you really want is to feel fit and feel comfortable in your own skin. And that's when you feel gratified. And then the last concept I'll talk about today is the idea of delayed gratification versus instant gratification. This is a big one. I think nowadays in society, we are all programmed, right, to get that quick hit of Facebook. Who liked our picture? Head over to Instagram. Who gave us a heart? Like everything is immediate. And our brain loves to prioritize the present moment. So when the extra glass of wine is presented, or the second cookie, or the I don't feel like doing what is on my calendar right now, the instant gratification often wins. And the thing is, if we're working on new outcomes with new habits, we are doing that work for our future self. So you really need to question the decision in the moment. Does it serve you for your long-term goals? Or is it just your immediate comfortable pleasure? And be honest. Listen, honestly, I usually don't feel like doing my podcast at the time I have it scheduled for, but I still do it because I have made a commitment on my calendar, and I want to share these tools with you guys in order to help the state of affairs of the world of mental health. So just because I don't feel like it is not an excuse. There are a lot of things that you don't feel like doing, but you still do. My guess is there are days when you don't feel like going to work, but you do. So take that same mindset in accomplishing the goals that you want for you. I know in the long run, when I do the podcast immediately as scheduled, I will have the gratification when I hear from you, or when I hear from people reaching out with questions, or when I make a difference in the world, or when I have clients reaching out telling me how their world is changing. And I will see gratification when my nieces know for absolutely sure I am just not crazy Aunt Michelle. They really can do anything in their life. It is truly possible. That will be my gratification. So even though I don't feel like doing it in the moment, I stick to the habit of recording this podcast when I say I will. Make sense? So think about that this week. Who do you want to become? What is one habit you can begin implementing or changing in order to move closer to that person? One small change over time can make such a huge difference. It's all so good. I cannot say enough about this book, and there is still so much more goodness to learn from it. So if you guys are interested, again, it's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. So good. Okay, that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. It truly is my honor and privilege to be able to speak to you every week. Let's circle back next week, but for now, make it a great day. Take care. Hello, hello, hello. How are you all doing today? I am feeling pretty good. Past couple days, little questionable. Think it was a full moon. But we just recently also came back from Florida. So a few days at the ocean were wonderful. And then back to the New York snow. So that may have played into it as well. Oh, it's so different, right? How sunshine can make such a difference in our mood. And, you know, I get that I always tell you it's not the circumstances. So I guess it's really my thoughts about the sunshine, right? I have such a funny example speaking that of how our thoughts cause our feelings and really not the circumstance. My husband hates flying. He gets so worked up. Me, I feel like I'm as calm as a cucumber, right? I do it so much for work. So he's stressing and he's looking at me asking how I can be so calm. And I'm like, well, I am not choosing to think that we are going to die on this flight, right? I mean, it's not the flight that's stressing him out because I'm on the same flight and I am not stressed out. But we clearly have different thoughts. But as I've mentioned before, he really doesn't care to hear my coaching, so I just share it with you guys, right? I like to use just everyday examples to show you how it really works out. So now we are back to New York winter. And I tell you, the older I get, the more I think I want the warmth. So full transparency, it's me wanting to change the circumstance, and I can see that. So let's dive into today's topic. Can you guys believe that it is actually episode 60? And remember, every 10 episodes, I like to share either a mentor or a book, something that I have found like super beneficial. So today, I want to discuss with you a book that I just actually reread for the second time. And it's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And it was so interesting to see how even reading it the second time, I picked up on new information, right? Because now I have some different ideas myself. And so it just was interpreted a little bit differently. And it really kind of hit home. So that's why I want to share it with you. And it's about taking your life to the next level and the things that often hold us back, which are upper limit problems. And how we really need to be onto these in order to make that next leap. So the big leap, the next leap to the next level, to your zone of genius. See, there's a number of successful people in this world, and my guess is you are one of them. But are you living in your zone of genius? Do you have ideas and then not really follow through because you don't think it's quite possible? You know what I've noticed? Any time I look to argue for my limitations, so talk about all of the ways that things are not possible, maybe I do have an idea and then I find all of the reasons why it won't work. Well, if I continue to argue for those limitations, I get to keep them. And then my big idea never has a chance, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? So how does the upper limit problem hold you back? I'm going to share some of the ideas that Gay talks about here, and I just want you to start being aware of how they maybe play into your life. So in the book, they talk about an inner thermostat level. And that's what determines how much love and creativity and success that we actually allow ourselves. And when we start to get past the level of where our thermostat currently is, then we often do things to sabotage ourselves. And that looks different for everyone. Now, this is often programmed early on in our lives, usually from parents, family members, and typically, it's about the abundance or the success in our lives. And that thermostat leaves us living in either our zone of competence or maybe even our zone of excellence, but not quite to the level of living in our zone of genius. So let's take a look and just start with what each zone means. So first, zone of incompetence. It sounds a little obvious, right? But really what they talk about in the book is the activities that we are not good at. like things that we waste our time on when other people can actually be doing them much better. So let me give you an example. A simple one for this is actually even editing this podcast. Clearly, I am not a podcaster, right? I am a salesperson and life coach that just tries to bring you guys some information. So I record it and then I want to share it with you each week to hopefully help maybe shift your mind a little bit and maybe help you kind of live your best life. But if I took the time to edit and upload each week, I would be spending so much more time on it than my producer does. So I pass that job off, right? And I can focus on other things that might be more helpful to you. Sometimes you can even think of this as like a per hour cost mindset. So what I mean is, like, are you guys doing something right now that you could either pay for or creatively find a way to delegate? You will be surprised at how much energy you will gain when you do this. I mean, I think about how much time and energy it would take to edit this podcast. It is so worth it to have somebody else do. That is taking this activity out of my zone of incompetence. Got it? Okay, so then the next zone that I want to look at is the zone of competence. And here, Gay says, is where you are kind of living a life of unfulfillment. So you're competent at these things, but so are a number of other people. And a lot of successful people waste time here. And ladies, I talk to you. I know you. I am you. This is where we often find ourselves saying things like, I'll just do it myself. Or it's easier for me to just do it versus having to delegate it and follow up. But at the end of the day, it's not what we are passionate about. So I'm starting to question that, saying, you know, the one I've actually said it here, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. Maybe we just need to start trusting others to do some of it, and then we free up ourselves to do more of what we love. Just something to think about. Okay, next up, the zone of excellence. Now, these are the activities that you are extremely well at and you make a good living at, most likely. You're comfortable here, and your family is often comfortable with you here. And that's almost the problem. It's too comfortable. I see this all the time when I have consult calls or I'm just talking with some girlfriends. They often talk about this idea of feeling stuck, but not really knowing what that even means. And I totally get it. Honestly, that's where I was when I started coaching. We know we have a really good life, right? But we think there has to be something more still. And it's just such an odd place to be because looking at you, you have a successful life. You have a really good life, and you're probably pretty grateful for it. But something doesn't seem quite satisfying. And Gay says that's because you will only ultimately thrive in one place, and that is your zone of genius. This is the area that is uniquely suited for you. And the activities are based on your gifts, your strengths, and I think the older we get, the more we really start paying attention to this, right? This desire to do something more of what we love to do. So the question is, how do you even get there? Here's the thing. In the book, Gay talks about different ways to spot your upper limit problems in daily life. So again, remember, the upper limit problem is going to be when you've reached your thermostat of abundance and success and you want to take it to the next level. That upper limit problem is what holds us back from taking it to the next level. And he also discusses the importance and different ways to increase the abundance and success and love to bring that thermostat up overall. So essentially, that's what you're doing. You're increasing your overall thermostat. I'm not going to go into all of those because keep in mind, I always talk about awareness as the first step. So once you become aware of something, then you can decide if you want to change it. We want to make sure you have the awareness first before you start making the changes. So then what I want to discuss with you today is really the 4 hidden barriers that Gay talks about in the book. And these are the barriers that are holding you back. So first we'll become aware of what the barriers are, and then we can look to how would we want to change them in the future. So these barriers are based typically on fear and false beliefs. So if you can start to be onto yourself around these foundational ideas, then you can work on changing them. Okay, you may have just a couple or a combination of these. You may have one. You may not really have all 4 of them. Everyone is a little bit different. So just kind of take a step and listen if any particular 1 or 2 resonate with you. The thing they do have in common is although they seem real and true, they are based on beliefs about ourselves that are neither real nor true. So he says the fact that we unconsciously take them on as real and true is exactly what is holding us back. So again, that just really reinforces the importance of the awareness of figuring out what the upper limit problem is for you. So that's why I really encourage you to become conscious of this. And I just hope that you're open to considering if any of these seem to be you. And when you can start seeing them as not true, well, that's where you get to make the shifts. Okay, so the first one up is this idea of feeling fundamentally flawed. So this is usually a deep-rooted old feeling that there is at some level something wrong with you. Maybe when you get to a level of making a certain amount of money or in a relationship, then you start to tell yourself things like, you shouldn't be this happy, because if something is wrong or bad, remember, if you're thinking at some level, you're fundamentally flawed. So if something is wrong or bad with you, then you shouldn't be so happy. So we want to shine a light on where that comes from. What is the old belief? Because again, although it feels real and true, it's not. And the other part that goes along with this is a fear that if you did make a commitment to go all in on your zone of genius, well, then you might fail. It's like it's a belief that even in your zone of genius, you would be flawed. It wouldn't be good enough. And so you stay playing small, playing safe. So that way, if you do fail, well, at least it's not that big of a fail. Make sense? Okay. If that one doesn't sound like your upper limit problem, let's move on to hidden barrier 2. I feel like a game show host there, right? So hidden barrier 2 is when we're stuck behind the ideas of disloyalty or abandonment. Now, this is where you start to expand, but maybe feel guilty because maybe it's different than what you grew up with. Remember, your zone of excellence is where not only you are comfortable, but your family is comfortable with you there as well. So the idea of disloyalty or abandonment is really where you start to pump the brakes on going to the next level because you feel like you're going to go against the family norm. And you don't want to get too big. And sometimes you don't even quite enjoy the success that you have at this point because you don't want to seem too much. So sometimes this just comes down to having an uncomfortable conversation, maybe with loved ones, about what it is that you do want in your life. Again, recognizing the truth is not that there is any abandonment or disloyalty. It's just you living your life on purpose, the way you want to.
and you can still love the family just the same. Now, the third barrier he discusses is believing that success brings a bigger burden. Growing up, did you have any feelings of being a burden? Maybe you have guilt from things your parents did or said. It's fascinating, right? Sometimes family members will say or do something when we're young, and it really sticks with us. So maybe you feel like somewhat of a burden, and now you think success would make that even larger. Listen, we can feel guilty enough about the things that we've done in our own lives, right? We do not have to take the level of guilt from what our parents did or said on top of that. So if we can take away that layer, I would love to see what changes. And then the fourth barrier, the final barrier, is the idea of the crime of outshining. This is super common among gifted and talented kids. And maybe you have been super successful, but there's also been this underlying message to not shine too bright because we wouldn't want siblings or friends feeling bad. And this may be how you roll now. Maybe you don't want to seem like too much. Or, as my niece sometimes says, I can be extra. But what's the alternative? And is there anything wrong with being extra? I'm starting to think not so much. Because listen, you have one life to live. Why do we want to continue doing anything other than what we truly want? And that's actually a question I've been asking myself daily. What do I want? Do you even take the time to think about what you truly want? My guess is not so much. You're busy running around taking care of everybody else. So I want to encourage you this week to make some time. Start by looking at these barriers. Did any of them resonate with you? Begin shining a light on the ones that did. And remember, they may feel real and true, but they are not. And you can begin dismantling them and then see where the root structure is for you or where your upper limit problem actually resides. So start paying attention to your day-to-day interactions with yourself, the stories you tell yourself. Start with the awareness. And once you have the awareness, you will be amazed at how the shifts can follow. And if you want to get this book, I highly recommend it. In fact, I'm sure I'll be reading it again next year. I just think as I grow and evolve, something different stands out each time. So again, it's called The Big Leap, and Gay Hendricks is the author. And listen, if you guys are ready to take a big leap, but you're not really sure how to do it for yourself, I want to help you. This is what I do with my clients. It is so much fun. So whether it's hitting higher sales revenue goals or finding more work-life balance, like whatever it is for you, this is the time to invest in yourself. Just head over to michelleburkecoaching.com and click on the Work With Me page, and we will get on a quick call just to see where you're at, see where you want to go, and if it's a good fit. If you're not quite ready for the call, but you want more free content, be sure to go over to michelleburkecoaching.com/freebie, and you can download a quick 3-step guide to find more work-life balance. Okay, that's what I have for you today. Let's circle back next week. But for now, make it a great day. Take care. Did you know you can take this work to a deeper level with me one-on-one? Go to michelleburkecoaching.com and click on Get Started to begin.